here through here.
Whoa.
There
Be
you go.
careful.
See? You might not like it. You might be very disappointed.
That was his inner voice
I'll
coming
have
out.
to I'll have to turn that down.
I was looking for something to be disappointed about. Okay.
Oh my.
Yeah, this is good. So tonight I'm going to talk about working with disappointment. And the first thing that I want to say is that disappointment happens. That I don't think you can be in a human body, in a human life, without occasionally finding yourself disappointed. And then, so not to beat ourselves up if we're ever disappointed or to judge ourselves, but to look at the disappointment itself and work with it, hopefully skillfully, right? A lot of times I like to think that I'm over a lot of these things like disappointment because I practiced mindfulness for 30 some years. And then I walk in here, I'm like, oh, talk about disappointment. And there's a guy working on the heat and air system and he's drilling and making all this noise. The whole room is shaking here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh no. Oh, disappointment. Perfect. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'm just going to assume that you all have had disappointment before. Maybe today, I don't know. Maybe on the way driving here or something. I find that there's certain areas that I tend to be more disappointed than other areas. We all have our different tendencies. Some people might have more of a tendency to be disappointed with their finances or with their work at work or with friends or loved ones or driving, you know. I find myself, before I take off in the car, I have to say, now people on the road are not your enemy, Rania. They're your friends. These are all loved ones who are on the road. Because otherwise I could be sitting there going, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And my daughter a lot of people start meditation practice and then they stop it because they get so disappointed in their practice. They think they're doing something wrong or the meditation's not working for them and they're trying to get something out of their meditation practice and therefore they become disappointed. My daughter was a child actress growing up, and the one thing she had a lot of good breaks, when she first started, a lot of lucky breaks when she first started out. But then her, what's the guy that was getting her work? Agent, yeah, acting agent told her, you have to get used to a lot of disappointment in this field. And she did. She had this one TV commercial that she was like 8 or 9 years old, and it was one of those commercials that was on the TV like all the time afterwards. And she and this other girl were the final people auditioning for this role. It was like a charter or major, Syncom or something commercial. And we were like, oh, this is pay for not only her college, but you know, a good down payment on probably buy a house with the amount of money she would have made from that. And guess what? The other girl got it. Yeah. And she had to learn not only to be with disappointment, but not make anything up about herself because she didn't get the part. And that's what we need to do. We need to learn how to be with disappointment without putting ourselves down, without making up a story about I'm just not up to the task or I always fail or something like that. I've never been prone to putting myself down like that. Um, I've been more prone to putting other people down. But I work with a lot of people as a therapist, and I'm just amazed at how many people are just ruthless critics to themselves, just really hard on themselves. Yeah. Um, yeah. But, disappointments happen, and we need to learn to bring mindfulness to the disappointment when it's present. How is it showing up in the body? How is it showing up in the heart and the mind? What other emotions are here with it? But, you know, when I look, mindfully explore disappointment in the past and even in the present, I usually find that there's an expectation, right? When I heard the guy drilling here really loud in this building, my expectation was that we could have a quiet space for meditation. You know, my hope was expectation or hope. So we all have to learn how to it's not as much working with disappointment as it is letting go of expectations or letting go of attachment to our expectations, right? And then the disappointment kind of just drops away. But I found some quotes on expectations. One is expectation is the root of all heartache. I love the ones in AA I've heard when I've gone to meetings. Expectations are premeditated resentments. Yeah. Or another one in AA, my serenity is inversely proportional to my expectations. Serenity inversely proportional to my expectations. So according to Manfred Ketz de Vries, a psychoanalyst who's done a lot of research in the Harvard Business Review, he says the way that we handle disappointment is related to our developmental history. Their relationship with our parents, our relationship with our siblings, our early formative years, maybe what happened with our friends in school. And that disappointment, depending on our growing up, can be so painful. We can have events that are so confusing and painful as children that we form these habits, right, to avoid disappointment at all costs. And people tend to have two different tactics that they use to avoid disappointment. One is to become underachievers, right? I just won't go for it because I might fail, I might be disappointed. So we unconsciously set the bar very low for ourselves, right? We avoid taking risks, we play it safe, play the really safe life so that we don't have to work with disappointment. It's a tactic of self-preservation, but we end up becoming pretty disappointed in ourselves because we're not living the life of our dreams, or we're not living up to whatever our potential is, right? I remember I hit 40 years old, and it was like, oh, I'm 40, yay, I made it. And then, boom, I realized that I'm 40, and what have I done with my life? I was going on meditation, a lot of meditation retreats. So I did a lot of purification, but what did I do with my life? Did I take any risks? I wasn't taking risks. I was playing it safe. I was the quiet one in the room who never spoke up, hoping that I would just be invisible in the background because I didn't want to deal with judgment or disappointment, right? And when that 40 was like, wake up, Rania, stop playing it safe, start stepping up into who you are, who you came here to be, right? So that was a pinnacle year for me. People do the opposite. They follow the different trajectory. They avoid disappointment by being overachievers, right? Now they become perfectionists, maybe kind of unrealistic expectations of themselves, and they always have to be the best and get the most and have the highest achievement attainable. And this often leads to disappointment because they hold themselves to unreasonable standards, right? So we're hopefully looking for a middle path here when we're not having unrealistic expectations of ourselves or unachievable goals. Yeah. And that we're grounded in reality and yet setting our intention for something that makes our heart sing or our body rejuvenated and excited about, or this brings some passion, and we do our best. We're going to fall and we're going to fail at times, and we're going to learn from our mistakes. Yeah, if we don't make mistakes, we don't learn. I know a lot of people today, they avoid disappointment by researching the daylights out of everything before they take a step. I think it's wise to research things and to be educated, but you know that analysis to paralysis thing? They're not seeing that their over researching is actually an attempt to avoid making a mistake and being maybe disappointed in the outcome or themselves. Yeah. But I think our expectations are can be very unrealistic. You know, there's like whoever said that life has to be wonderful every minute of every day? You know? Yeah, I thought of a song earlier today. I was singing it, but it was, oh yeah. I beg your pardon. I never promised you a rose garden along with the sunshine. There's got to be a little rain sometimes. Remember that song? Older Than the Hills, but I remember it. You may not remember it, John. It was, you're young. Anyhow, it's a good song because we want all sunshine. We don't want rain. We expect life to give us happiness every day, good health, no problems. You know, Marianne was just talking about how she broke her tibia. And it's like, oh yeah, that happens. Tibias break. We lose things. The Buddha talked about disappointment in terms of the 8 worldly winds, right? And the 8 worldly winds are gain and loss, or profit and loss. They're pairs, those two. We want to profit, but we don't want to lose. We want all of our investments to make big money, but when they lose, people tend to start freaking out, right? What the Buddha told us is you can't have one without the other. As long as you're alive, you're going to do some profiting and you're also going to do some losing. Yeah? Pleasure and pain. As long as you're alive, you're going to have pleasure, you're going to have pain. Can't have one without the other, right? Praise and blame. Sometimes you're going to be praised and held with high esteem, and other times you'll be blamed. And yeah. And other times, joy and sorrow, right? There's going to be joy, there's going to be sorrow. And this is reality, right? We can't have one without the other. We can't want only the positive one and then, you know, get angry and upset and hurt and whatever when the other one happens. It's kind of like we're practicing mindfully being aware, oh, there's joy, oh, now there's sorrow. And we're just allowing it all to be here, just as it is, right? And we're tending to whatever's here without letting it totally poison our minds and hearts. Yeah. We're not going to give up on life because there's sorrow and because we lose people we love. It's part of the game, whatever this thing we're doing here. Of course, we want, and we can enjoy the gain, the praise, the pleasure, and the joy. There's nothing wrong with enjoying that. But as long as it's, you know, as long as we don't lament the opposite as well. And that denial of this truth is what causes us suffering and expecting only the good half, right? The Buddha's very first noble truth was the truth of dukkha, the truth of dissatisfaction, that things are not always going to be pleasant. We're going to experience some unpleasant things. This is like the cornerstone of mindfulness in Buddhist practice. And the more we practice, the more we realize things are constantly changing and flowing, and sometimes they're beautiful and wonderful, and sometimes they're really difficult and a little, you know, pretty challenging. And what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to surrender. Surrender and open to and accept whatever's here right now to the best of our ability. with some sense of wisdom and equanimity. I like to quote the Divine Comedy, Dante's Virgil coming to the gates of hell. There was a sign there that said, "All hope abandon, ye who enter here." All hope abandon, ye who enter here. It doesn't mean to let go of our plans. It doesn't mean to let go of our goals and be totally hopeless, right? But it means to not cling to our dreams and our goals. We want to have our intention for our dreams and goals, take steps towards them, be inspired, learn what we need to learn, and then be willing to let go of our goals when they're not working out, or even shift to a new goal or plan. Yeah, if someone had told me I'd be doing what I'm doing today, I would have never, ever believed them. You know, my plan was computer programmer, work for IBM, get in my 30 years, blah, blah, blah. You know, it didn't turn out that way. A lot of things happened. Oh, yeah, you'll be a spiritual teacher and practicing meditation. I would have been like, psh. That was not my thought at all. I was very anti anything spiritual. Yeah. So, you know, our practice is to be open to it all. I was talking about how I hurt my back in December at that last meditation retreat I was leading. And that it's just now getting better. I found a good chiropractor that's helping. But, you know, for a while there, I was disappointed with my back. And sometimes other parts of my body are hurting. And I find myself getting disappointed with my body or frustrated with it. And I've had to learn to stop expecting anything of this body, love it just the way that it is, accept it as it is, nurture it, take care of it, give it what it needs, try to be open to what it needs without having any unrealistic expectations of it as she rubs her knee over here. Yeah. You know, I think the biggest area that we have a lot of disappointments is in our relationships with people. We expect everyone to be wise and rational according to our way of thinking. You know, and people don't see things the way we do. People don't process things the way we do. Some people do. They're the ones we like to have coffee with or go out with, but most people see things differently. Yeah, and so we have to learn to see that we have an expectation of them seeing things the way we do and become curious about, okay, how is it that you have that view, right? There's so much opportunity now to be disappointed with other human beings in the world and the wars and the pain and suffering that's happening on this planet. Every time I turn on the news or read the headlines, I hear one painful story after another perpetuated by human beings. But let's look at the long view, the history of man. They say now there's less war than there's ever been in the history of man. There's less crime than there's ever been in the history of mankind. That even though it sounds really crappy, maybe mankind is evolving somewhat. Yeah, we can walk to this store and pretty safe to not have to worry about someone gonna rob us or kill us on the way there. Most places around here. Yeah, there are people still starving to death on this planet. There are a lot of people without homes. They're dispossessed of their belongings and homes, searching for some country that'll take them in, drowning in boats and rafts, trying to get somewhere to a land that. So there's a lot to be disappointed in with mankind when you hear of these stories of, I heard a story about the Greek authorities turning rafts, people from another country around and throwing them out to sea to drown, or to pushing them back with babies back out into the sea to die, because they don't want them coming to their country. Yeah, I don't understand why other people have such unfortunate karma. I'll never understand that unless I become a fully enlightened Buddha. I don't have that expectation in this lifetime, just in case, so I won't be disappointed. But my intention is to bring as much harmony as I can, as much love and harmony as I can to my own life and to other people's lives, and to be engaged in whatever way I can to hopefully positively motivate more of those energies on this planet. Hopefully, humankind will become less savage, more loving. But I don't have the expectation for that to happen in this lifetime, in my lifetime. Maybe my great, 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 great children's lifetime. I don't know if humans are even still around. But I can, and we each can, learn to love ourselves more fully, love one another more fully, accept that this is the way people are because they haven't had enough love in their life, right? And because they haven't had enough love or haven't been shown enough love and nurturing in their lives, they're choosing anger and fear and competition instead, violence. And that's just the way it is. So hopefully we can accept things the way they are and can continue to cultivate and bring more of what we want to see into the world rather than expecting it in everyone else. So thank you for listening. And of course, this is all aspirational because we're going to catch ourselves being disappointed from time to time. Yeah. So